Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, June 13th, 2019. My name is Clara Silverstein, and I'm here at the Newton Free Library with Audrey Kobrin. Together we're participating in the Newton Talks Oral History Project that is being conducted with the Newton Free Library, Historic Newton, and the Newton Senior Center. So thank you for joining us. I'd like to start by asking you to tell me where you're from originally and how you came to live in Newton.
Well, actually, I was born in Boston, and I know the first few months I was probably in Brookline, but my remembering was from Newton because I was just a baby.
Okay.
I remember jumping up and down in the crib, and the crib broke, and I fell through it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But you moved to Newton when you were very young,
Yeah.
so your memories are
Yeah.
basically from Newton.
Yeah.
What village were you in?
Just where I am now, Newton Center,
Okay.
but I was on Marshall Street.
Okay.
And which is within walking distance, actually, of my grandparents, because my mother and my uncle were young when my grandparents moved to Newton. And so they grew up in Newton.
Okay. Do you remember where you went to school?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I went to the Rice School where the Citizen Bank is now. And that was a white wooden fire trap. Oil floors. Really shouldn't have been there, but that was the kindergarten. In fact, I even remember the teacher. I think it was Miss Robinson, and she had white hair, and I was fascinated by the white hair because I hadn't seen anybody with white hair. Yeah, a little kid. Yeah, but she's nice. I liked her.
Now it is Mason Rice School, and it's in a completely new building.
They combined the Mason School, which was one in the middle of the center there. Yeah. It had a terrible playground. It was bumpy, little rocks, and the front door was very heavy. And the principal liked to give the boys a rat hand, they called it, if they misbehaved. In those days, they could. The teacher would go around with a ruler and hit the kids' legs while they're sitting at the desk, or put you in the hall closet to, for timeout kind of stuff.
Hmm. Do you remember any special school traditions? Did you have a school picnic? Did you have a field day?
No, they just let you out into the playground, But we did go to the playground, the same playground that's in Newton Center now. It was there then. And we did use that also because it had the slide and stuff.
Okay. Can you tell me about a past or a present Newton landmark that was important to you throughout your life? It could be the school, it could be, you've already mentioned the park as well. Any particular business that you went to a lot, maybe after school or?
Well, there was a lot of places. There was a children's library in the center, which as little kids we liked to go because the librarian would pick out books for us, stuff like that. There was a drugstore that we could get what we called up and down the line drink. They put a little bit of every kind of syrup in it. There were lots of candy stores, penny candy stores. You could get a piece of licorice that's long for a penny. And also they had stores you could look in the window and see them making the candy, which was pretty good. This is entertainment for kids, little kids. And of course, there's no TV or anything, so most things were entertainment. Mm-hmm. We also did something which actually turned out to be not so good. They started to put in X-ray machines in the shoe store. There was a Stearns or something up the center, and so they had this machine there, and we run in and we could put our feet in the machine and see the bones. So we run out, like, come on in, you can see the bone. We had no idea that they were putting too much X-rays in ourselves. But it was very exciting. Nobody could see bones in you before the X-ray, so that was something.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about some of the fun things you did. Were there other things you did? I'm thinking about maybe sledding or swimming or things you might have done after school.
Yeah, on Marshall Street, our house was like on a ledge, big rock, and the driveway was up, so we come down. And we did have a toboggan, and there wasn't much traffic in those days. If there was a car, the husband would take the car to work, and go anywhere. So yeah, but in that way you could play on the street. You didn't have to worry about being hit by a car. Yeah.
Did you have special ball games or?
Yeah, we play hide and go seek. We play kick the can.
Good.
Get on the swings and make believe it was a train. We did a lot of make believe, whether because it was probably expensive to get toys, I don't know, but we did a lot of make believe and a lot of playing with the ball.
Do you think that's changed over time? What kids do for fun?
Oh yeah, today kids don't go outside so much. We, go out and play. And we did. We were outside a lot. But with those little machines that they use, I have two great grandsons, and now the older one just finished his first year of high school, and Brody is like 3 years back, yeah. So they don't seem to go out as much, although they play a lot of sports. They're good at sports. But I think the majority of children are they're hung up on the little machines. Which, of course, we didn't even have TV then. So, But the radio was very exciting. We'd come in to listen to the little radio. Certain stories like the Green Hornet or something like that, and Shadow Knows, some of these old things.
The original soap operas, because they advertised soap, right?
Yeah.
Right. They were sponsored.
Yeah, you're right. 20 Mule Team Borax.
Do you remember any special events in the city? Maybe like a parade or a party or?
Well, later they did have that. What is it? A beer thing with those horses with the big hoofs. Anheuser Busch or something like that.
I think they're called Clydesdales.
Yeah, and they came through down the avenue. That was a big excitement. But I think I was older then. When I was smaller, there used to be a couple of things. There was a fellow that was like a gypsy that would play the organ with a monkey, and he'd walk around to the different houses. Usually he'd stop on the driveway and play, and of course the kids, we'd get all excited, we're going to go see him. And gypsies used to come around, actually, and everybody would shut the blinds, make believe they're not home, because once the gypsies got in, you had to buy something from them, a basket or something. So everybody, all of a sudden, the whole place, the whole town, like everybody's away. Yeah, that came through. Some of those things, they're small, but there wasn't that much excitement. The Iceman came by and with the ice truck to put ice in the refrigerators in those days. We got all excited because the Iceman would give us little chips of ice. So all those, it were the small things, but they were all exciting to us. And if somebody had an apple tree in the backyard, yeah, then we want to go and get some apples. And there's a neighbor that grew his own grapes to make wine. So great, we could pick some of those grapes out there.
Right. Now this was the 1930s, 1940s?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you graduate from Newton High School?
I went to Newton North, the old North, with the stairs and the tunnel and all that stuff. But then I transferred out of there because of the family stuff, and I went for the last 2 years of high school to boarding school in New Jersey. So that was a whole different thing, wear uniforms and stuff. But that was a different kind of thing. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. What would you say your best memories of growing up in Newton are? You talked about the little things. It might be that.
Well, one of the best memories, I had a special girlfriend. Next door, there was a girlfriend, Betty, and we played ball together, you know, against the house and all that. But my special girlfriend was Louise, who was 2 houses down, and we were friends before we even went to kindergarten. So we were friends for a long time. And we got along, people thought we were sisters. And we got along very, very good until her mother got cancer. And they decided to move to California because they thought the sun might cure her. They didn't know much about it. They still don't know very much. So she went there, but we always thought we'd meet again. But we got mixed up. She got married, she got divorced, and moved to San Francisco. I mean, everything, and I moved, and everything all around. I couldn't find her. And more recently, although I knew she had a daughter, but after that I lost track of her. And so more recently, we have these things, the iPads or something. I had somebody look her up because I can't find her. And they found where she was living in Utah because she had remarried again and she had a son by this fellow. And unfortunately, she had broken her rib. And the doctor told her, the son told me this, and he knew who I was. She had told her own kids about me. So she broke her rib, and the doctor said, well, she'll probably do better and get more care in the hospital. So they moved her to the hospital, and unfortunately, she got pneumonia, and she died in the hospital 10 days before I knew where she was. And that really bothered me, because when she moved, we exchanged rings, like friendship rings, you know, little Indian rings. And when we were going to meet again, we would do that. Never happened. Yeah.
That's sad, but it sounds like she was very special.
She was special.
Yeah.
Very, very fun and good person. And she was entirely different. She said, well, I'm not so Greek Orthodox. She's Greek Orthodox. She said, I'm not so into being Greek Orthodox, you know, to make it, yeah.
What was the ethnic mix of the neighborhood? Were there lots of different religions and different kinds of people?
Well, there weren't many black people in Newton. There was one black man who lived on Commonwealth Avenue on the carriage side. And he had 2 children, a girl and a boy. The girl looked almost white. The boy was very dark. So she was able to go everywhere. I didn't know she was black myself. And the son couldn't, and this father hung himself in the house. This was a tragedy, you know, really. But there were very few, I think probably very few that could afford to live in Newton. Mm-hmm. But people liked Newton because it was the Garden City. People wanted to get away from the factories and stuff. And this was like heaven, you know, it was really nice. So, but there was a mix of people from all around the world. There was a little girl that came in from when the war started from England. But it was very anti-Semitic. But it was low-key, very low-key. This is crazy. I didn't know one thing from the other. So after a while, they built the temple. I understand this is the second time it's been built, but I don't know. I lost track of that. I think I was in junior high school when they built the temple. And I was freaked because the people were saying, oh, the Jews are coming. Everything is going to go down. The property values will go down. Of course, that didn't happen, but, you know, I was freaked. So I was saying the same thing, you know, because I thought something terrible was going to happen. Of course, nothing terrible happened. But that's when I found out I was Jewish. Now that's really weird. I didn't know it because my parents didn't, as far as I know, they didn't do anything. We had bacon, we had everything else, and we had Christmas, and I helped with the neighbors' trees and all that. Newton was beautiful that time of year then. Trees lit up all the way down the avenue. People would come in from other areas to look at it. You know, it was beautiful. It was all lights and very pretty. And we had dinner. We had put our socks up for Santa Claus. The whole thing. But then I realized, but I didn't know what it meant because I didn't go to school, you know, to a religious school. But I was freaked. And it was kind of strange because I didn't feel I belonged anywhere. I had no Jewish friends. I didn't go to school to learn about that, although my father decided I should go. But I didn't like it. So when he'd leave me there, I'd go out in the front door and out the back. And there was a little drugstore back there, so they had a record player thing. And I'd waste the time and look at the clock, okay, about time my dad's going to be back. And I walk back and wait in the front. So he'd see me, right? He didn't have to go in. And he'd take me out for an ice cream soda. And don't tell your mother, because you're going to have dinner, you know, whatever. So I thought it's pretty good to go there because I'm going to have an ice cream soda. I didn't know what, it was a waste for me, you know, okay. But it was a very reformed temple. Although I didn't get involved with it. I think I didn't feel, you know, I was tall for my age was one thing, so most kids were short. So I wasn't too comfortable, I suppose. I grew up afterward, you know, get taller afterward.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you are living now in the house that your grandparents owned. How has the neighborhood changed?
Well, I see people come and go and come and go. When my neighbor on the right side moved in, they were a very young couple with a little kid. I made a chocolate banana cake. I was a good cook at one time. So I brought it over, and I knew they'd like it, and everybody liked it. And to welcome them to the neighborhood. But there was a big age difference. But I wanted them to see that, you know, we're happy that you're here. Yeah. But people pretty much keep to themselves, I think.
And that was different when your grandparents lived there?
Well, I thought it was more friendly, but then I was little, so I was friendly with everybody.
Did you renovate the house a lot?
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
No.
What's the biggest change you've seen in Newton over the years?
In what way? Architecturally, or you mean, or
I think maybe more lifestyle. You mentioned
Lifestyle.
that what kids play with now is very different. Is there
Yeah.
something else you've observed?
Well, of course, for one, there wasn't that many cars. So children in high school didn't have cars. We walked, you know. It was slower, kind of like when I was quite young. There was an old man that I don't know if he lived next door or not, and he would sit on the stump of a tree, and he'd sit there and tell stories about horses and how you make a saddle and all that. Half the stuff we didn't even hear it. And we would, with all the kids in the area, in that particular area, would sit around in a circle listening to him. You know, it was a slower, we'd play marbles, we'd play old-fashioned, what we'd think of old-fashioned today. A slower time. I remember cutting out paper dolls from the newspaper. I think in that part it was good. I think everything is very fast today.
Yeah.
Of course, and then when the war came, there was another problem. The twin boys next door, one of them was a parachute fellow, and became a parachute thing, and he had a metal thing in his head and the whole thing. He survived the war, but then he drowned instead trying to save a child. And I think it's a little more friendly. Today, maybe it's just me, but today you can live next door to somebody and they hardly even talk to you. Yeah. You know, on one side, because I've seen everybody change because they move in, they move out. I was really friendly with the lady next door, Edith. And she passed away, and there's a lot of stuff. And new couple moved in about 3 years ago, I guess. And the wife is a nurse, and the husband works for the government. And but they really do keep to themselves. I understand they have 2 children, but they're away at school. But she has 3 dogs, watchdogs there, 2 outside and 1 inside the house. But I don't know why, you never hear them back. Mm. But the government, somebody from the government came to me, asked me what I knew about him, you know, because they want to, you know, get, yeah. I know nothing about him. He wants to work for the government. I don't know. My brother did work for the government. He was a maritime attorney, and he worked in Washington. But that's, you know, that was a whole different thing.
Did you raise your children in Newton?
I raised them in Natick.
Okay.
And then moved back to Newton when, you know. Yeah.
Later on, okay.
Yeah.
Is there something you feel makes Newton Center unique or special out of the other villages in Newton? Is there anything you can point to about the center that is...
I like the center. I thought it was nice. I liked the trowel, the horse thing that they made into a flower thing. I just liked it. I liked the idea of the up and down drink from the drugstore there, and the children's library. I did like the center, but it was not as crowded, you know, naturally. And now it's really very congested, and it's not as appealing to me. There's too much cars and too much noise. It was a quieter environment. But of course, you know, stores come and go and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's very crowded now.
How would you describe Newton to someone who'd never been here before?
Well, to me, I think of it as almost in the old days, the slower. I ride my bike up and down all over the place. I didn't know all the streets, but I rode my bike. But there just wasn't that much traffic. So now it's getting more and more congested and more, I don't know, it's become a place for people who are rich in that sense. And why they need these huge mansions, I have no idea. Because they would usually, these people who have that kind of money will send their children to private schools. They don't have huge families anymore. So, and they're not giving big parties. And years ago, they used to give big parties, really big parties. I made a party for 100 people. But it took me 2 days. I couldn't fit them all. I had to put 60-40. But if they had a house of a fairly good size, they would entertain, if they knew how to entertain. But now, I don't know, I don't see them entertaining, so I don't quite understand why they want such a big place. And they got to hire people to, I know one woman has 6 people come during the week, two and two, to clean and do stuff. Besides, she has a man living there also helping. So it becomes a real expensive thing. Although it's true, my grandmother had a chauffeur that cleaned around and drove because she didn't drive. It's a different kind of life. But then you could get somebody to clean the whole place for $12 a week.
What do you think Newton will be like 100 years from now?
I don't think it'll be so hard. I think I'm pessimistic about that. It's getting more and more crowded, and I think what will happen is it's going to be like any other city. It's losing already some of that. And they can't, it seems to me, I could be wrong, but it seems to me that there's an awful lot of money spent in Newton. And they're always thinking of some new big idea to do. So that closes a lot of people out. I understand people can't even rent. You know, I understand the minimum rent is $1,000. I don't know, just is so many people that it's not that cozy friendly. Not that everybody was always friendly, but, you know. But you did, the girl, I can't think of her name, that became a famous ice skating star. She used to roller skate.
Tinley
on the
Albright?
street. Yeah, and she was a terrific roller skater. You know, she's doing all those things that they do on the ice, but on roller skates. She's really good. Yeah.
Were you in school with her?
No, she lived down the street. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that we didn't cover?
Oh, I don't know. I think there was some, during the war, going to the war, there was some bad anti-Semitism. There was a German boy with a bullwhip that used to chase other kids.
That sounds hard.
Yeah. Though my father became a warden, and he had these charts, and you had to look up in the sky and see the silhouette of the plane, and then I guess he had to call in if he saw any plane like that. He never saw any plane like that, which is good. But, you know, yeah.
So it sounds like you lived in Natick when you were raising your family, you were married, and
Yeah.
then came back. Was Natick very different?
Is what?
Was Natick very different than Newton?
Oh, yeah. Well, Natick was just new. That was all like swampland, and that was filled in land that the builder was smart. He bought a whole bunch of land and built houses for the veterans returning. So the most of the people there were veterans. My husband was a veteran. But there was nothing there. They had to wait for the bread truck and all that stuff. Just like Newton was originally waiting for the trucks to come in with the vegetables and stuff like that. Which made it, I think, kind of quaint. Yeah.
So any thoughts, final thoughts for maybe your great-grandchildren? Anything you'd like them to know that you haven't said to them?
I don't think they're too interested. To them, it's another city, another place. So they're really into sports. They play a lot of sports. And I keep telling them, you're better off to be the manager. But they don't listen to me. You don't get hit in the head. I know I dated the manager in college of some of the sports. And he said, I wouldn't play ice hockey. He said, I don't get hit with a stick. But he's the manager, it's another story. I think it's smart. But I played college basketball and also field hockey and that stuff, and did relay swimming. I was very active. But I told them, learn how to play tennis. You can travel anywhere in the world with a tennis racket and a pair of sneakers, and you can always meet somebody, and they're always looking for like doubles and stuff like that. Any hotel has a tennis court. If you go into the thing, you see the Japanese running around with their golf stick things all around. But that's a heavy thing to drag. But yeah, and then you can play. You don't need a whole team. If you got to take a whole team with you, you're in trouble. So I try and clue them in, but that isn't going to do any good, you know. They do what they want.
Well, I believe we're out of time, so I want
Okay.
to thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. We're really happy to be able to include you in the Newton Talks Oral History Project.
I don't know if I'm typical of Newton.
You did just fine.